From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. We continue our series of programs looking at the first 6 months of the regime and, of course, our resistance. It's really something going over these old programs. So many of the stories are precursors, are warnings to what we've seen since. This is back in early mid-March. We're talking about the arrest, the illegal, unconstitutional detainment and arrest of Mahmoud Khalil, who has since now been released, thankfully. But it was a first shot across the bow at how Homan Himmler and his ICE Gestapo was going to operate. You'll hear in the segments we're reviewing today about how there was frustration from a lot of us about a lack of urgency early in the regime, a lack of appreciation of just how bad this could possibly get, a lack of imagination, a deafening silence, especially from so-called leaders of the opposition, which continues to this day. There is no opposition party. There are no opposition leaders. We're totally lacking. That's in both the political world and the media world. These talking heads, so comfortable in their studios. Well, I won't get ahead of things. These are the clips you're going to hear in this episode. They are from March 13 and 17, episodes 512 and 513. Okay, any good news headlines this week? Oh, sure, there are always. I want to recommend, once again, Zan Zusanika, who's doing a wonderful job posting good news stories. I'm just going to give you a small sampling. We have been able to revive the old CDC site thanks to the archival work done by the people. It is restored. Okay, cool. The Presbyterian Church of the USA, one of the largest mainstream Protestant denominations, is speaking out forcefully against Trump's agenda. Apple's shareholders voted, and the company's DEI policies will continue. Federal judge reinstates Labor Board member Gwyn Wilcox, fired by the Republican president. And this goes on and on. I think there are, I don't know what's the count, hundreds. 122. 122 good news headlines. So find Zan Zusanika in your socials. I couldn't recommend anyone higher. I came across this cheerful story. History shows that when enough people take action, they win. And we don't need everyone, just a committed, organized minority. Political scientist Erica Chenoweth studied over 300 uprisings across history and found something remarkable. When just 3.5% of the population actively joins a movement, her research showed, change usually becomes inevitable. From the BBC, looking at hundreds of campaigns over the last century, Chenoweth found that nonviolent campaigns are twice as likely to achieve their goals as violent campaigns. And although the exact dynamics will depend on many factors, she has shown it takes around 3.5% of the population actively participating in the protests to ensure serious political change. There you go. Don't let anybody tell you it doesn't work. Some of the bad news. The Orange Menace signed an executive order calling out major law firms who, in his estimation, worked on the wrong side. So he's openly attacking his personal and political enemies using the power of his office. The EPA plans to close all environmental justice offices. An internal memo directs the closure of offices designed to ease the heavy pollution faced by poor and minority communities. Of course, those communities take the hardest hit when environmental issues cause things like increased asthma, higher rates of cancer, all sorts of health-related disparities falling so hard on these communities. Just going to close it up as though it doesn't exist. Environmental justice is no longer a thing. All right, let's get to really, for me, the biggest story in weeks of all the big stories. The American Gestapo, Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE. The arrest and detention of Mahmoud Khalil. The regime has absolutely crossed the line into straight-up Nazi-level state crimes with this one. You know the story. Mahmoud Khalil, 30 years old, holds a green card, permanent residence, American citizen wife, 8 months pregnant. They knocked on his door, arrested him on 0 charges, jailed with no charges filed in Louisiana because they didn't like his opinion regarding the attack on Gaza. He was part of the Columbia University protests. In fact, was one of the main people trying to negotiate an end to the protests, some sort of settlement with university officials. And there's just so much wrong with this. He's being accused of anti-Semitism, which is just a lie. There were hundreds, thousands of Jewish students protesting right alongside him. The Orange Menace is basing this arrest and detention and deportation on his own executive order declaring anti-Semitism illegal. Well, no one, least of all the president, can declare anti-Semitism illegal. Now, let's be clear. There was no anti-Semitism from Mahmoud Khalil. But even if there was, let's pretend for a second there was. It's not illegal. It's called freedom of speech. Just like the guys down in Charlottesville chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Did you notice nobody got arrested because it's not against the law? It's abhorrent. It's vile. Very few people would condone it. I certainly don't, just like I don't condone anti-Semitism. It's vile, abhorrent, but it's not illegal. If the Orange Menace ever read the Constitution, which I'm sure he never has, he would know that the First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech, even for green card holders who have most of the same rights as anyone. The legal loophole they're going to try to create here is that he somehow was in support of a terrorist group. A green card holder who supports a foreign terrorist group can be deported. Well, that's the other lie then that they depend on. The lie that pro-peace, anti-Israel demonstrators were somehow in favor or in support of Hamas, and even worse, in support of the October 7th attack. Nothing could be further from the truth. They equate any anti-Israel demonstration with anti-Semitism. They call them the same thing. Remember Elise Stefanik and her little dog and pony show kangaroo court congressional hearings, where she was browbeating university professors and presidents, equating pro-Palestine positions with pro-Hamas positions. Ridiculous. And the very idea that they would use anti-Semitism as their weapon is cynical, hypocritical, ironic beyond belief, when they're the greatest anti-Semites of all. The whole right-wing love of Israel is strictly based on the idea, the biblical idea, that Jews have to secure their homeland of Israel in order to meet conditions for end times, according to prophecy. And what happens in end times? God himself comes down to earth, takes all the Christians home to heaven with him. And what happens to the Jews? Well, either they convert to Christianity or they spend eternity in fiery hell. That's what these people believe. And they're calling you an anti-Semite for protesting genocide against Palestinian children. And so they send ICE, the new American Gestapo, to abduct, to kidnap an innocent, law-abiding husband and father take him 1,000 miles away from his home, jail him, and threaten deportation. Of all the big stories, and there are many big stories, none is more central than this one. And the regime is openly using this arrest to threaten hundreds more. Anyone who disagrees with the policy of the regime can be abducted without legal arrest and jailed. And even if you have permanent residence, you can be deported. Deportation czar Tom Homan is the reincarnation of SS leader Heinrich Himmler. Who's next? If they can do this to a green card holder, they can do this to you. They can do this to any American citizen. They can drum up charges. Should I expect a knock on my door? Because I've said everything and more than most of these protesters. Israel committed genocide in Gaza and continues. A right-wing member of the War Cabinet just a couple days ago made a big speech calling for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, forced deportation of all Palestinians, clean it out. They're withholding food and aid again. So you're going to come arrest me for saying that? Israel is a rogue state. Netanyahu and his cabinet are war criminals and should all be behind bars. For that, are you going to call me pro-Hamas? Are you going to say that I'm sympathizing with terrorists? Is that what you're going to say? You're going to call me anti-Semitic? Because the current government of Israel has gone off the rails? Come and get me. Come and get me. I feel the need to say out loud at this stage of the game, not to fearmonger, because I don't want to do that, but at the same time, I feel like maybe some people aren't really appreciating just how bad this can really get. Based on what we've seen so far, when are we going to see the first extrajudicial killing? You know, how far away are we from his political enemies falling out of windows? Or dying in plane crashes? Or suddenly dying of food poisoning? I mean, how long is it going to take for that to start happening? Because, I don't know, feels like that's not so far off. He's copying the playbook of Orban and Putin so far. He just loves Duterte, who has just been indicted for the extrajudicial killing of his own citizens in this big tough guy drug war he pursued, and for which the Orange Menace lauded him. Oh, isn't he great? Oh, I love Duterte. Well, look what he's doing. So yeah, how bad can this get? I'm not sure people really understand what happens in other countries where most of the population, a good 60, 70, 80% of the population, have literally no rights, no money. They live in a police state. There's hyperinflation. There's rampant poverty. There's virtually no democracy. This happens. It's not fear-mongering. It's not Trump derangement syndrome. It's a cold, clear look at the facts at what can happen to a nation. And I don't think people appreciate the fact that we are on a rapid, steady decline into that sort of world. I don't think people believe it. I think there are a good many people listening to me right now as I speak thinking I'm crazy. If it's happened elsewhere, why couldn't it happen here? What's so special about us? So no, I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to get people to take this seriously. And from what I can see, there's just way too much normal out there. Of course I want you to be happy. Of course I want you to take some time to get some rest and, go have a beer and see a movie. And of course you should do those things. We all need a mental health break once in a while. We can't just live and breathe this thing 24 hours a day. But I'm seeing way too much normal. I mean, there's a full-blown attack on the justice system. He's openly going after political enemies. This speech he gave just late last week at the Justice Department, just frightening. Going after political enemies. Look the other way when the regime commits any crimes or any friends of the regime. Full-out attack on the courts, on free speech, on education, universities, professional civil servants, attacking basic, sensible environmental laws that have been around since Nixon, for God's sake. Decimating any reasonable notion of public health. Scientific research, all kinds of research, on literally anything good that we might do collectively is just gone. They're threatening criminal charges against Habitat for Humanity because they accepted federal grants regarding climate initiatives. So Habitat for Humanity, a private nonprofit that builds houses for the underserved, takes advantage of a federal program that helps to encourage environmentally sound practices in home building. And Kash Patel, the FBI, and Pam Bondi of the Justice Department are threatening Habitat for Humanity with criminal charges, felony offense. This is how low they're going. And we're only 7 or 8 weeks in. How low can they go? The Orange Menace's vice billionaire tweeted on his rancid little tweetmobile that Hitler didn't really kill anybody. It was those darn civil servants that did it. Public civil servants, they're not to be trusted. Yeah, the level to which they've gone is just mind-boggling. There can be no disloyalty. There's no free speech for those who are deemed disloyal. Just label them terrorists. Yeah, anybody you don't like, just call them a terrorist, put them in jail. And it's not only a one-man show here, this authoritarian shtick ruling over the government, but ruling over just everyone and everything. Nothing's off the table at this point. So two things are true. This is every bit as dangerous as anything we've ever seen, and I'm also confident that we can win. I'm absolutely not giving up. We can beat them. I don't want to scare anybody, but we have to take this seriously. So the regime is attempting to silence all dissent, and that's why it's more important than ever to be loud. A friend of mine forwarded me a piece by Ralph Nader asking why so many people are silent. The former presidents, George W. Bush, Clinton, Obama, Kamala Harris, the most recent candidate. Silence, deafening silence. Why aren't they out there every day? There are hundreds, probably thousands of former U.S. officials, cabinet secretaries, heads of departments, agencies, vice presidents, people who are out there who could really speak clearly to the current situation. And there's just nothing. I mean, what the hell? So you and I guess we keep landing at the same solution. I guess it's up to us. We're in a leaderless movement. We're going to have to be okay with that. And as an anarchist, as a social anarchist who believes in lateral power distribution, actually I am kind of okay with that. But it means we have to do it. We have to join the protests. Occupy your state capitol building. Go to your city council and school board meetings. You got to be loud. You got to speak out at work, speak out at school with your neighbors. Some people are going to be mad at you. Tough. Wear it on your sleeve. We have to be loud every day, and louder the next day. Because, of course, the media is not helping us. There they are, the talking heads in their shiny corporate television studios. You know, the right-wing strategist next to the center-right pollster, next to the centrist reporter. And they're all sitting around very politely around their shiny plexiglass table, and they're all laughing. You notice that about these panel pundit discussions? They always find plenty of things to chuckle about. They're just having a wonderful time. We need somebody to just throw a shock into the system. We need media. Anybody working in the media, if you're listening, I'm begging you, we need a Howard Beale moment, right? The movie Network, the great Paddy Chayefsky film. Howard Beale is the character who stands up, says he's mad as hell, he's not going to take it anymore, and this volcano erupts throughout the media. We need an event like that to usher in a new mindset. Somebody's got to stand up and head slap the camera, turn over that nice plexiglass table, just, like Jesus and the Money Changers. We need somebody to shock the system. We need somebody in the White House press corps to stand up nose to nose with the Orange Menace and tell him exactly what he is. But no, everybody seems to be just continuing to act like everything's normal. But what that does is uphold the status quo, and the current status quo is a sharp and rapid fall into autocracy. So what are we thinking here? A couple of news items since we last spoke. Of course, media is all over the economy and the tariffs. It's just to the point of, to borrow a phrase, I'll call that the derangement syndrome. We got a tariff derangement syndrome. We're now living in a show me your papers nation. Apparently there's stories of ICE agents all around the country at various airports asking for people's papers. There was this one woman in a Florida airport, asked for her passport. She asked why. He said, because you fit the profile of an illegal immigrant. What? He didn't even couch it in any sort of code. He just said it right out loud. You fit the profile. So this is what we are now. This is what we are. There are a bunch of stories like this. There are ICE agents standing alongside TSA agents at airports, profiling people and asking for proof of citizenship. Show me your papers. This woman didn't even know who he was. He didn't identify himself. She didn't know he was ICE. He was standing there along with the TSA agents, so she thought he was another TSA agent. She just didn't know what was going on. This is the country we live in now. The new administration is just really on the ball here. We had this huge outbreak of tornadoes over the weekend, 40 tornadoes, 34 people dead. If you saw the video, whole neighborhoods just destroyed in this cross-country storm system. Nearly 300,000 people without power across 8 states. And I did an internet search for state of emergency declared, disaster declared, FEMA. I tried all these different keywords. Nothing. I couldn't find anything. So tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe my search skills aren't very good. But is anything happening for these people? Is FEMA on the ground? Did the Orange Menace take a break from his golf game to declare a state of emergency anywhere? What I did find was 1 or 2 mayors and governors doing what they can. Yeah, mayors, governors, you just take care of things. I'm busy golfing. So that's the world we live in now. You know, if this forces a transformation of the Democratic Party, that's great. If everything just comes crashing down, maybe that's what we need. We need the Democratic Party to just crash. Because then what comes out of it can be something new, at least. It's just amazing what the Democrats are not doing and what they could be doing. They could be writing legislation. Sure, you can't get it passed, but you can write it. You can show it to the American people. You can show us our options. You can hold hearings. I've said this a few times, going to keep saying it. You don't have to be the majority party to hold a hearing. Hold a goddamn hearing. Hold 10 hearings a day. Put them on C-SPAN. Make some news. Get some reels going. Get some videos on TikTok. Get some time on the nightly news. Make some news. Hold hearings. Invite people to speak at your hearings. The minority party has power also to obstruct. We saw this for 8 years of Obama and 4 years of Biden. Republicans obstructed at every opportunity using legal means. Democrats, you're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You talk once in a while, and then you ask us for money. Senator Chris Murphy is one of the more out there, outspoken critics of the Orange Menace. All well and good. But from what I can find, that's all he's doing. It's just talk. And he keeps showing up in my feed asking for money. Oh, I need $5 so I can keep talking. What? So I wrote back. I wrote back in the comment section. I'm sure he read it. You know, I might give you $5 for every time you're arrested. How's that? Every time you hit the front lines with the people and you get yourself arrested, like John Lewis got himself arrested, I'll give you $20 for every time you're arrested. How's that? I'll give you another $20 if you write up the articles of impeachment and publish them where I can read them, where everybody can read them. I'll give you another $20 if you do something to obstruct the Republicans in the Senate. I'll give you another $20 if you hold a goddamn hearing that we all can see. Use the power of your position. Talk is cheap. All they know how to do is ask for money and run for president. J.D. Vance was booed. You may have seen the video. He attended the first performance of the Trump Center for the Arts. You know, the Kennedy Center, been taken over by the Orange Menace and his hand-picked board. Well, the very first performance in the new era happened last week. It was the National Symphony Orchestra's performance of Shostakovich's Violin Concerto No. 2 and Stravinsky's Petrushka. So I don't know what to make of this, but do you find it odd that the very first performance of the Trump Center for the Arts is two Soviet composers? Russian, Soviet-era composers. Just the optics alone, just the fact of it. Whether it was a coincidence or intentional or what, or a form of trolling, I don't know what or why or how, but how in the world is the first performance at the Trump Center for the Arts featuring two Russian Soviet-era composers? I don't. The world is just unbelievable. You've been listening to a best of episode of The Log, featuring clips from March 13th and 17th, episodes 512 and 513. Find all episodes at the website, charlesburcell.com, or on your favorite podcast platform. Follow on Substack and Blue Sky. Thanks to our home station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song. All right, I love you. See you out there.